So thank you to those here and those viewing after. I'm Katie Atchison, the Business Development Manager at the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. This is our small business series partnered with MassHire Career Center and Neil Neary, who's on here to secure our expert speakers. And today we have Christine Abrams from Commonwealth Corporation. I'm going to go right ahead and hand it over to you, Christine, while I get your slides up so you can introduce yourself to folks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie and Nyla, for having me here today. I can't think of a more important place to be at this time, given the small business community and the breadth of small businesses you have on the community. Everyone today.
I'm going to go ahead and put some of our guests on mute here so we can hear you.
How everyone is really struggling with workforce and workforce development. It's one of the biggest needs that we hear when we are out. So to be able to chat with you today and to present this information and as well as, and most importantly, the resources that are available. The state has an incredible amount of funding. For the first time probably in our history, funding is not the problem. The opportunity is impact. And that's why we are doing and reaching out to communities and chambers to get our message out and make sure that everyone is aware of and utilizing the great resources that are available. So with that, could you please switch to the next page? I wanted to start and tell you a little bit about Commonwealth Corporation. I came to CommCorp about 2 years ago now, and it was 2 weeks into the pandemic. Some would say incredible timing, which it was, but in some ways it really was incredible timing, because to be able to come to an organization when the need and the demand was so great is an opportunity that I feel very grateful for. And to come and lead an organization that is as talented and passionate about workforce is really something that I am very, very grateful for. When I came in 2 years ago, we actually took pause. The team was going through so much transitioning and pivoting, and they were doing it all in taking care of those we serve and themselves. And the first 6 or 7 months, as we were all trying to, figure out the way forward, we were all pivoting in ways that we've never pivoted before. It gave me an opportunity to get out. And to really understand and listen and find out more about how we are perceived with those that we served, the opportunities that we have, and the barriers that exist. It was one thing to tell businesses about CommCorp, but for me, the real value was in listening to how we can best serve them and how we can help them navigate through workforce development, which is not an easy thing to navigate through. And what we learned is, access really comes down to awareness. And as much as we can, looking at our programs and challenging ourselves to ensure that we are creating simplicity and ease of access. Because our small businesses, and we are focused primarily on small minority and women-owned businesses, don't have the resources to sit and try to navigate through the workforce development labyrinth. We need to help them. And in meeting with over 100 different organizations and businesses my first year, it was so helpful, and it really helped us as we went into our strategic plan, which started in October of 2020, and the plan was just approved in January. And we looked at every aspect of Commonwealth Corporation, starting with the mission and vision, where every word is so meaningful and so powerful. And we wanted to make sure that it reflected the reality, reflected the need, and really focused in on equity. So our mission is Commonwealth Corporation fosters workforce equity in Massachusetts by delivering innovative and collaborative professional development solutions that help diverse communities and employers succeed. Next slide, please. And our vision is to create a world where meaningful employment can lead to the upward mobility for all. Next slide. One of the things about CommCorp is we have a lot of different programs, and our board would tell us we have so many programs, it's really hard for them to articulate who we are and what we do. And if our board was struggling with that, then our grantees and the people that we serve had to be struggling with that. So what we did is we took a step back and we looked at our programs, and we came up with a positioning that allows people to kind of more easily understand the services and the programs that we provide. And we broke it down to 3 different buckets, or 3 different segments. The first is investing in the future workforce. And we have programs like YouthWorks, and we have a contract with DYS. It's all about the future workforce. We also develop an immediate pipeline of workers, and that's the and under-skilled workers. And our future skills programs largely fall into that bucket. And I'll get to a lot of those programs in a few minutes. And then lastly, training and upskilling the current workforce. We have our workforce trust program that had been one of our largest programs. We have our Express program. Those are all for incumbent workers, and they would fall into that bucket. Next slide, please. We also underwent a rebranding for CommCorp, as well as a relaunch to our website. What we saw with the website is it was too text heavy. It wasn't, and I think the fire alarm's going off. I don't know if you can hear it, but we'll continue on here. It was text heavy, it wasn't bilingual, and it really didn't simplify the end user's journey. So we rethought and repositioned our website and wanted to focus in on there's no wrong door. So no matter how you come in, you can get to what you need. And it's all about functionality. Again, that access has to come down to simplicity and functionality, where we streamline the audience's journey, making it more intuitive for them to find what it is they are looking for. It's also a perfect puzzle fit. Before we had, our programs, and people knew a lot about the programs, Workforce Training Fund, YouthWorks, they may not have known about CommCorp because you really didn't see the CommCorp brand. And we also have our employer partners. We have our government entity like the Future Skills or EOLWD. So what we did is we made sure that everything fit together because what we're doing is not just one-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. We're taking an insights-driven approach. I mentioned that our focus is really on the underserved communities and small minority and women-owned businesses. We need to use data. We need to use data so that we are, that we understand exactly where our opportunities are. We understand what we need to do differently to make sure that we are having the right kind of outreach, and with that, the biggest impact. And last but not least, it's about meaningful access, and it's about inclusion. I am pleased to say that we are now bilingual, English and Spanish. We are going to Chinese, Mandarin, and Portuguese by September. We will also have virtual and hearing access by September of this year as well. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we engaged in our strategic plan, and CommCorp has been preparing for the future, but the future is now. And our strategic planning objectives can be broken out into 4 main buckets. Diversity, equity, inclusion. What I would say is that is the cornerstone of our plan, and it permeates throughout the entire plan. Creating an inclusive environment where employers and employees feel respected and supported to thrive. As I've said to many, it's about our organization, it's about who we hire, how we hire, it's about our board, which I'm very pleased to say has 61% BIPOC representation. But it's also about who we give our money to, who we partner with, and who we're training, and making sure that we have the right metrics and that we are measuring so that we understand, again, where the opportunities are, so that we can invest in correcting those opportunities. It's about the employee experience and making sure that we're investing resources to support staff learning and development, building capacity across the organization for functional collaboration. Collaboration today is so important, whether it's within our organization, which is how we're setting up our organization to ensure that we are communicating and collaborating, but it's also externally too. One of the reasons that I have met with over 100 organizations and continue to meet with organizations like yourself is that what we're dealing with are complex problems. And it is not going to be one of us that solves them. It's going to be all of us working together in ways that we've never imagined that will help us to solve them. The last two program buckets are infrastructure and technology. We're a quasi, but I would say we're more like a state when it comes to our infrastructure and technology, very, very paper driven, and with a lack of connectivity throughout. And that slows us down, and it makes it more difficult for people to access the services and support that we have. So our goal is to free up human potential and enable creativity and innovation. And all this comes to support our program and equity across all programs. Next slide, please. So I thought I'd also provide a few, updates on April 2022 trends. We have about 87% of the total jobs have been recovered from the pandemic. We still have about 90,000 jobs yet to be recovered, but 87% have been recovered. The unemployment rate, which last summer was around 17%, is now down to 4.3%. February, it was 4.7%. But despite all these, the progress that we have made over the last 2 years, the economic fallout of the pandemic has hit women, communities of color, very, very hard. Hispanics have an unemployment rate of 9%, Blacks 7.7%, and compare that to whites at 4.7%. So we have work to do. Next slide, please. So we know that it's been difficult for employers to hire. Katie and I were just talking prior to getting on the call that the Cape has always been hard hit, and it's always been difficult to get the right levels of labor that's needed to support the summer tourism season. We have an unprecedented number of people in the workforce. Again, that workforce participation has decreased by 89,000 compared to pre-pandemic level. But the problem with that, and the problem with the fact that we have 89,000 people still looking for jobs, is the mismatch of employers that need those skilled. And it's employees and potential employees thinking that they have to check every box. And it's employers that still have, old standard ways of evaluating future talent. And what both sides need to do is look at this differently. And that's where workforce development comes in, because we've got 90,000 people that want to work. And our job, and all of us, have an opportunity to look at how we reskill and upskill them. And it's not just for today. If you look at the Future of Work report that came out a few months ago, they mentioned that in the next 10 years, between 300 and 400,000 people in Massachusetts will have to be reskilled or upskilled. Those are numbers that we've never seen in the past. And in order to do that, we are going to have to think differently. We are going to have to continue to invest in our labor, in workforce development, to ensure that we have the right skill sets for the right jobs that are available. Next slide, please. So mention that we have funding. We have more funding now than we've probably ever had in the history of Commonwealth Corporation, and probably workforce development for EOLWD as well. This year, we have the ARPA funding, America Rescue Plan Act, and right now we have $50 million within our budget, and I'll show you how it's broken down in a few minutes. And then we have the Commonwealth Corporation fiscal year 22 budget, where we've had incremental funding allocated by the legislature and the Workforce Skills Cabinet of $54 million. The problem today is not funding. The problem that we face and the opportunity that we face is, given the fact that we have funding like we have never seen before, we do not have the infrastructure to support it. And we do not have the partnerships that can create opportunities for training and investment to the scale that's needed. And to help through that, the Workforce Skills Cabinet has developed a pathway, if you will, of not only infrastructure, but infrastructure that builds and supports the programs that they have put in place. The next slide, please. So you will see here a rather busy chart, but as I said, about last September or October, the Workforce Skills Cabinet knew about how much money that they were going to have coming in, and they got together with core staff, other agencies, to really think through how do we build the infrastructure to support the demand, support the stimulate supply, and provide programs that are that will resonate given the need that exists today. So the Workforce Skills Cabinet worked with the 7 regional teams to really define the investment plan, identify gaps, and really think through the whole model for supporting this level of investment. And what they came up with is 2 unique positions. One is called the market makers, and there's 1 per region. And their job, and I'll get into a little bit more deeply in a few minutes, is to engage employers and to match to the training providers. You know, as I said earlier, workforce is not an easy system to navigate. These are the people that are put in place within each of the regional markets to help employers navigate and get the resources needed and the talent that they need. And the second piece of it is all about the supply. And within each of the career center, there is a position, newly installed position called the Upskilling Navigators. And their job is to create that supply, recruiting, screening, and enrolling participants. So getting them in, looking at their background, looking at their interests, getting them in the right training that'll funnel them in to the jobs that are available. And all of that builds to some of the new programs and that we're calling the Future Skills Grant Programs. We have about $36 million, and over the next 3 to 4 years, it's closer to $64 million in the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund. We have $22 million in the Career Tech Initiative Fund. We have $10 million in a grant that we're calling Renew, which is replenishing employer investment in education and workforce training. And then we have a STEP, $4 million in what we're calling a STEP program. And that's really about seed money for employers that are looking to kind of do pre-planning and working to build out their grant proposal. So I'll get into the next slide, please. We'll get into a little bit more detail about some of these positions. Again, to support employers, the Commonwealth has invested in a new market maker position. First, it's about understanding the needs for trained workers. What does each of the employer need? Then it's about how do we connect those employers to the resources that include also the training that will provide the talent and the pipeline for those needs. Next slide, please. So the workforce support and the programs that have been put in place and the infrastructure that has been developed, it's really about targeting to the employer needs and helping our and underemployed employees. So we have programs for immediate hiring, which is hired for immediate job openings for candidates available in the workforce. We have a $50 million program called Hire Now. We actually had to cut off registration because the demand was so great, 4,000 per employee. And that Hire Now program is exactly that. It was to stimulate people, that employers that were hiring individuals now, not with onboarding, but if the employers want to use that for retention, bonus, future training, ESOL training, it's flexible to allow the employer to invest in the ways that they think are most advantageous for their organization, as well as the employees. And for immediate hiring, it's also about leveraging the MassHire career centers. They have so many tools that are available to help employers match and find the right employees to connect them with the business opportunities. The incumbent training, we have more than $200 million in available funding to train new and existing workers, and also pipeline programs. And again, going back to the market makers, talking to the market makers about leveraging the grants and partners, aligning employers with training partners and providers to help them in the grant pipeline process. Next slide, please. So mentioned that we have $200 million that we're investing in expanding skills training. And, you know, we talk about the market makers and why that role is so critical. So we've got over 200 million, but as an employer, especially small employers, the question is, well, how do I access that? How do I build these partnerships? How do I get the right training for the right employees that I need? And that's really where the market makers come in, as they assess a pipeline of skilled hires by partnering with workforce training providers. And they have access to the programs. They know the types of programs that are available so that they can diagnose and help support the employers as they come in with their needs, whether it's vocational and trades, whether it's healthcare, manufacturing, transportation. So again, talk to the local market makers to learn about how to leverage the existing programs and how to launch and customize new training programs for your company. Next slide, please. So the Workforce Training Fund is all about upskilling current employees. We have, again, more than $20 million each year, up to $250,000 per employer. And you have to have providers, partnerships, training providers to do this. So again, that's where the market makers come into play, because they can connect you and help you find other like businesses, and also provide the right level of training so that you can develop grants that will customize the training for your specific needs. So we have two programs within the Workforce Trust Fund. One is the general program, which is what this page is referring to. And it typically is for larger organizations, you know, 250,000 per employer. It really requires a level of investment that most small organizations and companies don't have. I want to also let everyone know that we also have a second program within the Workforce Trust Fund program, and it's specifically geared to small small businesses, and it's called the Express program. And I mentioned that in 2020 and 21 that we did a series of meetings and to really kind of understand the limitations and how we could better improve our services and support. And one of the things we found is that the Express program was still a bit complicated, and that small businesses, and we consider small businesses as any business under 100 employees, still had problems paying. It's a 50% match. So we did a couple of things. We reconfigured, we streamlined the process, we made it easier. And this program has all kinds of off-the-shelf training that's available for employers to use with their employees. But what we also did is we eliminated the match and we reimbursed the match for businesses under 100 employees, or small businesses under 100 employees. And the numbers speak for themselves. Through the first, I think, 6 months of this new Express program, grants are up over 350%. So again, for the small businesses looking for off-the-shelf training, please look for the Express program. And if you go on the CommCorp.org, CommonwealthCorporation.org website, it'll be under the Workforce Training Fund, but just in search, type in Express. But it's a great program, particularly for small business, the small business community. Next slide, please. Mention the Workforce Competitiveness Trust Fund. This is a great program for the needs of today. And I say that because it's about employer partnerships, understanding the training and the specific skill set that they need. But what makes this program special and particularly relevant today is it also provides training and support for low-income populations with additional funds available to support job seekers on public assistance. It establishes sustainable talent by pipeline across all priority sectors and occupations, and also gives employers and training partners technical assistance, marketing funds, and recruiting support. This is the fund that over the next 3 to 4 years is ARPA funded, and we have almost $64 million funding that's available through this fund. Next slide, please. WCTF, just a case study to kind of, help to kind of think through what this might look like. In 2020, over 2,000 people in Massachusetts died from opioid overdose, more than before. The Hampden County Regional Employment Board had noted a supply gap of 650 entry-level behavioral health care positions. The success factors that they established were committed employer partners, competency-based instruction, virtual training models, and established pathway to licensure and advancement. So the steps included the award and partnership. Westfield was awarded a $200,000 WCTF grant to develop and execute curriculum that prepared workers for the drug and alcohol abuse counseling and licensing program. In partnership with employers and curriculum development and experts, Westfield modified the existing curriculum to be offered in a competency-based model. And the virtual competency-based training model has increased the program's reach and made it better able to meet the students' needs and learning preferences. And the outcomes, 24 students are set to graduate in January of 2022. So a real success story here. Next slide, please. Mentioned the Hire Now program. Again, first come, first serve. Right now, registration is closed. If you have pre-registered, please go onto the website and make sure that you have completed your registration, because the pre-registration process does not entitle you to a place in line. It's the registration process, which was open about 2 weeks ago. So please go on. And if you pre-registered, complete the process to save your place in line. Next slide, please. And the last slide here provides just key links and information for employer referrals that I thought I'd pass along for all of you to have as you consider how you might utilize the great funds and resources that the state has made available. And that's it. I'm open to any questions or comments.
Yeah, that was great, Christine. Thank you so much. There's so much information there. And I will speak to the navigating the website was very easy to do. It wasn't stressful. It has a nice calming blue. There's pictures of people. And you know, that work shows that was put into it. We did have someone on last week who walked us through a little bit of the Hire Now and what the Hire Now grants can be used for. So anyone that's interested can click on the FAQ sheet that we had from, we had Kelly from Associated Industries of Massachusetts HR Solutions come and give us a brief on that. And I think something that, you know, really need to drill home again is that people like Mila, who's on the call here, can help folks to navigate all of the resources that CommCorp has to offer. And I'm so grateful to have both of you on here to actually, you know, put a face to the name and to let people know that, you know, that reach is an email away or a phone call away. And I'm happy to be part of that bridge too, to get people the support they need to navigate those grants. And I'm not sure if Mila has anything she wants to contribute here, or Spiro, if you want to ask any questions, you're more than welcome to.
No, I just want to say that MassHire definitely is committed to being that bridge. As Christine was saying, we're very fortunate. We've been working with the vocational technical high schools here in helping them secure employer partners for upcoming grants that they've been working on. So we've gotten that well underway. We're working collaboratively with the college right now as they investigate hospitality and culinary training programs and looking for employer partners. So it's really wonderful just to get the dialogue going. So we're excited about bringing all of this information, and as I like to say, and all of this money that's on the table, so to speak, and making our employer community aware of these great opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. I have scheduled for 2 weeks from today our penultimate small business series for this season. So we'll share that information on our website. And again, thank you, Christine, so much. Thank you, Neela, so much. And I'll look forward to sharing this online for people to spread the word and get all that incredible information.
Excellent. Well, it's been my pleasure. And anything that we can do to help, don't hesitate to call. And good luck with the season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.